Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of What's New in Laravel. I am Mohammed Saeed, and today I'm gonna show you the awesome things the Laravel community and the Laravel team has been working on lately. We have news about new model events, we have news about new scoped instances inside the Laravel container, news about Laravel Cashier and Laravel Vapor. Without further ado, let's jump right in. We will start by checking this new, small but powerful method that was added to Laravel connections. It's called useWrite connection when reading. And this method basically instructs Laravel to use the write connection when reading data from the database. In Laravel, you can configure a separate database connection for reading and another for writing. And this helps when you are using database replication in your infrastructure. Inside the database.php configuration file, you can set a different host for the read connection and another for the write connection. And you can configure this connection to be sticky, which basically means whenever you write data to the database, Laravel will switch to reading from the write connection instead of the read connection to prevent any problems that may happen from database replication lag. And this switching happens inside the same request. Now, if you make a request to your application that writes data to the database and then you immediately make another request to read data from the database, that's a different request, this sticky option will not help you. The new request that's reading data from the database will use the read BDO, which might not have the most recent data that was written to the database. So using this method, we can create a middleware that uses sticky database connections across requests. The basic idea is whenever you write data to the database on the write connection, we're going to store a value in the session and we're going to read this value on next requests and configure the database connection to read from the write BDO for a specific number of seconds. This gives a chance to database replication to happen, so data on the write BDO or the main instance is available on all replicas. So inside the middleware, let's put the response inside a variable and then return this variable at the end of the method. Now, before we return the response, we are going to check the database connection and see if it has any modified records. If that's the case, we are going to store a value inside the session. We'll call the session key db modified, and we are going to store the current timestamp. Now, whenever a new request comes in, we need to check the value stored inside the session and switch to using the write BDO for reading if the database was recently modified. So we're going to read the session, last modification equals request session, and then we'll get the value from the session, db modified. Now we're going to check if we have value inside the session, and the difference between the current timestamp and the value stored in the session is less than 5 seconds. If that's the case, then the database was recently modified and then we need to switch to using the write database connection when reading. So we're going to use db connection and we're going to use the newly added method, use write connection when reading. Now, if the customer triggered code that wrote data to the database and make another request to your application, the new request will check if there were any modifications, any recent modifications, and will switch to using the write database connection when reading in that case. That way, you will avoid the side effects of database replication lag across requests. Now, another thing that was added to Laravel recently is scoped singletons. You're familiar with the concept of singletons already. They are objects that are created the first time you use them, and the same object is going to be used whenever you request this service from the container throughout the request. But now we have a couple of ways you can run PHP in stateful mode. First, using queue workers, and second, using Laravel Octane. When running Laravel in stateful mode, any singletons that you create will live for as long as the worker is alive. And this might not be the case, or this might not be desired for all types of singletons. For that reason, we introduced new scoped instances. These instances are going to be flushed after each operation. So consider handling a queue drop as an operation, or handling a request on Octane is another operation. After each of these operations, Laravel is going to flush these scoped instances. So when it's handling a new operation, it's going to have a clean state and it's going to resolve a new instance from these services. To register an instance as a scoped instance, you need to use the scoped method. So here inside the register method of a service provider, we're going to call app and then call scoped. Let's register this service called service, and then we pass a closure. And then we return the concrete implementation of the service. Now this service will act as a singleton inside the same operation, but whenever this operation is done, it's going to be removed completely from the container and a new instance of this service will be created while handling the next operation. In this episode, we have updates on model events, specifically on soft deleting models. So previously, when you soft delete a model, a deleted event will be fired. And when you completely delete or force delete this model, a force deleted event will be fired. What's new in Laravel is that we added a new trashed event. This event will be fired whenever you soft delete a model, along with the deleted event. That way you can differentiate between a model that was soft deleted because it's going to trigger the trashed event and another model that was hard deleted because it will trigger the deleted event. And the new trash event is also considered with the new model broadcasting feature that we discussed in the previous episode. In this episode, we also have news about Laravel Cashier. A recent release, version 13, was released yesterday, and it has a lot of new features. We introduced support to all payment methods supported by Stripe. You can now use them in your application. We also revamped the payment page that would appear to users whenever a new payment confirmation is required. The user is going to be redirected to this new payment page. It's brand new, you should look at it. We also introduced a new sync Stripe customer details. This method is available on the billable object. Calling this method will simply update the Stripe customer details on Stripe itself, which will make the invoices on Stripe up to date with the latest customer data. All you need to do is call this method on the billable object whenever you update any of its information, like the name, email, phone, or the address. You can also override any of these methods inside the billable, so you can provide how Laravel should read this data from your application. And you can find more details on everything new in Cashier version 13 in this blog post published by my colleague Dries Vents. So make sure to check it out. And also you can subscribe to the RSS feed on the blog to find everything new about Laravel whenever we publish a new post. Now let's move to Laravel Weber. Recently we added a new feature that allows people to transfer a team from their account to another or a new owner's account. To do that, just head to the team settings screen and then scroll to transfer teams, and here you can write the email address of the new owner. When you hit transfer, the new owner will receive an email, and when they accept the transfer invitation, the team will be moved to be under their account. You should know, however, that this will transfer all linked AWS account credentials to the new owner. Which means if this team has projects that are under the AWS account that belongs to you, and you transfer this team to a new owner, the new owner will be able to use these AWS credentials, which are yours, to do anything they like. This means if you have your own personal credentials added to the team and you have projects running on these teams that are on your AWS account, and when you transfer this team, the new owner will be able to access your AWS account using these credentials. So just keep that in mind. If you are using Laravel Weber to create a project for a client and you want to use this feature to transfer the team under the client email address or under the client account in the future, know that the AWS credentials will be moved to the new account or the client's account as well. So my advice is, if you plan to do that, don't. If you are starting a project for a client, start the project on the client's Weber account from day one. Do not start it on your account and then transfer the team to their account later on. That's all I have for updates on Laravel, Weber, and Cashier. However, now it's a special day. It's the 10th anniversary of Laravel. 10 years ago today, Taylor Otwell committed the first or the initial commit of Laravel. I'm going to leave the link to this commit in the video description down below so you can see how Laravel started. And it definitely has gone a long way since then. Took the web world by storm and made web development more fun. I discovered Laravel in late 2013. It was version 4 back then. Before that, I was doing WordPress and I was almost going to leave PHP for good until I discovered Laravel, and it changed everything. Now everything I built since then is using Laravel. Tell us what's your Laravel story. When did you know about it, and when was the first time you used Laravel in a production project? Leave your comments in the comments section down below. And that's it. That's all I have for you today. I hope you learned something, and have a good day, enjoy coding, and see you later.